And just to say that we're really excited to be able to share a lot of information with you throughout today's meeting. But to start off with, it's I think a tradition that I seem to ask this every year. By a quick show of hands, please raise your hand if this is your first member meeting. Whoa, love it. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome. Okay, so a couple more quick questions. For those of you who've been a member of the co-op for the last year or less than a year, quick show of hands. All right. Okay, I'm going to go. In the last 5 years, show of hands. Oh. Last 10 years. Years. Oh, look at that. Last 30 years. Love it. 40 years. Between 30 and 40, okay, we'll take that. And then 50. Is there anyone who's been a member? Woo! All right. Love it. Great. Well, thank you so much for your support of the co-op throughout all those years. Once again, we are excited to have you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over.
I'm Pamela Hunt, and this is my first year on the board.
I'm Jody Landon. I'm board treasurer. This is my 6th year on the board, and I didn't know whether to raise my hand for 40 years or 50 years because it's 49 this year that I've been a member.
My name's Mariella, and I'm the vice president on the board, and this is my first year on the board.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Christina Sweet, and this is also my 6th year on the board.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Tobin. This is my 2nd year on the board.
Hello, I'm Simon Bird. This is my first year on the board.
So with that, can we just give a quick round of applause for really our board? They do such amazing work. So thank you. Right. So with that, just wanted to quickly show you the agenda for tonight. Once again, we have a lot of things to cover. And I think for those of you who have been to Member Meetings Board, it will probably seem pretty familiar. The one thing we also do ask, because we're going to be covering so much, if you have questions, unless they're absolutely burning, if you could just hold off to the end, because we did allocate quite a bit of time for Q&A to the end, and so appreciate your cooperation. So with that said, I will hand it over back to Sam.
Great. So I'm very excited to be giving this and nervous to be giving this presentation with John tonight, and to share all the awesome ways that our co-op that we love has so positively continued to impact our community. But we'd be remiss to dive right into this presentation without recognizing that right now we have a community that's struggling. Our community at a very small scale and even at larger scales, and we all get to see that struggle through the different lenses that we have. I live in the heart of the Old North End, a stone's throw from Feeding Champlain, and I see signs of that struggle every day in front of me. I own a business right at the bottom of Main Street, and I experience as a small business owner that struggle as I have potential customers not wanting to navigate Main Street or even deal with Burlington. We all get to experience those struggles. Many of us experience it with the price of eggs that are getting pricier, the price of housing that's getting even pricier, or the priciest medicine that we have here. And so the struggle that our community is experiencing is not unique to just us, but we have this amazing amazing thing, our co-op, which still is serving as such a beacon within our community, despite all those struggles. And so I'm really excited to be sharing some of the ways that our co-op has continued to do that. With over 50 years of service to our community, just this past fiscal year, 2025, our co-op had 1,448,000 transactions between the two stores. That is a lot of transactions. We have donated over $90,000 to Feeding Champlain Valley. They have been a long-time partner of the co-op that we're so proud to continue to support. We have worked with 29 different nonprofit organizations in our community in our Rally for Change program. And a little later in our presentation, we're going to share a very exciting milestone that we just reached in the history of our Rally for Change. We also, in this past fiscal year, hired 157 employees at the co-op. 65% of these employees were full-time positions, and 92% of these employees lived within Chittenden County. Finally, we've still managed to see increased membership, even given the drop-off that we've seen in the downtown stores, which we'll discuss later. Membership sales continue to be strong, and sales by members still account for 60% of our total sales. So there's so much to be excited about, and we're going to present about more of that in detail in this presentation. Next up, I want to bring my fellow board member Christina back on, and Christina will be introducing our candidates for our upcoming election.
Thank you. So we are going to be meeting 9 candidates today, some of whom will be in person and some of whom will be joining us via pre-recorded video. Our first 2 candidates are Mel Grant and Debbie Friedman.
Should I start my speech? My 2 minutes? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I'm super excited to be here. So I am a board candidate, and the reason my husband and I moved to Vermont 3 years ago from California, and a big part of what drew us here was actually the existence of a co-op, because what that meant for us was a community that really honored and devoted its local food and farming system and wanted to support it. And I care deeply about having a resilient food and farming system. And as many of you may know, our small and mid-sized farmers are really struggling. They are going out of business at unprecedented rates. And having diverse markets, which includes a grocery store like our co-op, is essential for them to thrive and survive. And agricultural economy is a huge part of Vermont's economy, so it's also essential for our economic survival as a state. So having something like the co-op is really vital and important to me, and something I really want to work to preserve. It's also really important to me that everybody has access to the incredible food from our local farms, especially our hardworking organic farmers who are really supporting our environment. And as my background, I'm a lawyer by training. I used to practice business law in San Francisco. I had 2 kids. One of my children was really sick. And I changed my career after one of the doctors we went to suggested we switch out all of our cleaning supplies and switch to organic food because no other doctor was helping us. My son did get much better, and so it led me to change my entire career. I ended up founding and running 2 environmental health nonprofits. I produced a national environmental radio show, and I've been a food systems consultant for about the past 8 years, and I primarily focus on school food and transforming the school food system. I'm working for the state of California, but I'm really eager to get involved in my local community, so I'd love to be a part of this community. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And our next candidate is Mel Grant.
Hi, I'm Mel Grant. I've been in Vermont shopping at City Market for probably the last 20 years. I'm here because my wife went to UVM many years ago, and we've been coming back to the area before we got a home here. I serve on several local boards, Old Spokes Home, UVM Nursing and Allied Health. I would love the chance to work with the board members and try to help bring City Market into the next phase and work with all the good people. And I would rather see my actions speak louder than my few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Our next candidates we'll be hearing from via video, and our first is Spencer Wright. I apologize, Ayana Curran-Howes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ayana Curran-Howes, and I am so bummed that I cannot be there with you all in person. I am presently in a union meeting for Graduate Students United. I am in the final year of my PhD in food systems, where I'm working directly with farmers in the Northeast Kingdom, looking at care ethics within alternative animal agriculture. Happy to talk with anyone about this more offline. But I am always looking forward to having more grounded ways of being involved in my community. Presently, I am the market manager for the Old North End Farmers Market, of which this provides me probably my greatest sense of purpose and joy and community. And I really believe that having a good life is tied to being able to enact our values, which are always being inhibited. And I'm very grateful to have this cooperative within biking distance to me that provides all of my sustenance. And I would really look forward to bringing my passion and in-depth knowledge of the food system with plenty of ideas, as well as communication, facilitation, and organizational skills. I have truly found the greatest source of community I have ever felt here in Burlington, and specifically the Old North End, and I would love to further it and grow my impact and continue to cultivate a vibrant local food system with you all. Thank you for considering my candidacy, and have a great rest of your evening.
Hi, my name is Helen Roadfett, and I am excited to be running to serve on the board of our co-op. I joined City Market when I moved to Burlington in 2017. I love how City Market supports our local economy, connects us to our local farmers and food producers, provides meaningful employment for many of our neighbors, and fosters a sense of community among us. I would be honored to serve on the board, and I would bring nearly 15 years of experience in Vermont food systems, including farm to school, local food access, organizational development, and leadership to our co-op. In my day job, I'm proud to serve as the Deputy Director of Programs and Operations at the Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont, also known as NOFA. I genuinely love contributing to and participating in shared leadership models, and I truly believe we are better together. Thank you for your consideration, and I'll see you in the aisles.
Hi, I'm Shoshana, and I've lived in Burlington for just over a decade now. First in the Old North End, and now the South End is home, not far from the South End store. Before moving here, I had heard about City Market, and it's really lived up to the hype. It's become my go-to for everyday staples and tasty treats and sometimes other fun things. I've spent a lot of my life in and around co-ops, including working at an energy cooperative and co-founding an organization called the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Alliance. This has taught me a lot about the various distinctions between operational roles, governance roles, and I understand fundamentally how to collaborate across these positions so that we can all achieve the success we're after. Over the past 10 years, I've worked at UVM, where I've overseen about $100 million annual operating budget, and I've had responsibilities for human resource management and strategy and our dining services contract. This has really taught me a lot, in addition to my prior co-op experience, about how to balance financial responsibility with mission-driven values. I think fundamental to the 7 co-op principles are a commitment to the mission and financial responsibility, as well as values such as inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. And I would continue my commitment to these values as a board member of City Market to ensure that our members voices are heard and their needs are being met. I think that co-ops are strongest when their members show up, and I'd be honored to give back in this way and to help move the co-op forward by supporting staff and keeping City Market vibrant, sustainable, and connected to the community for years to come. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Spencer Wright. I'm sorry I can't be with you all today, but I'm very honored to be running for the City Market Board of Directors. I'm running for two reasons. The first is that City Market is just an incredibly important institution to me. I grew up in Burlington, so the co-op's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I now live in the Old North End with my wife and two daughters. City Market's where we do the majority of our grocery shopping, so I'm there multiple times a week, and I just really love it. The second reason I'm running is that I believe I can contribute positively to the organization. Professionally, I've spent my career helping mission-driven organizations grow while staying true to their values. I have a background in experimentation and data-driven decision-making, and I'm a fast learner who loves working on hard problems. The co-op's given me and my family so much over the years, and serving on the board would be my way of giving back. I just want to end by saying thank you to the board, staff, and members for making City Market such a wonderful place and community. Regardless of how the election goes, I think City Market has an incredibly bright future, so good luck to all the other candidates. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you to all of our candidates who couldn't be here tonight, and next we'd like to hear from Pamela Hunt.
Hi, I'm Pam. I'm also a freelance editor, so I'm a behind-the-scenes person. I don't like talking in public. But I've been a member at City Market for about 15 years, and over that time I've been an active member worker. I've helped in the store, in cooking classes. If you took them, you probably saw me doing the dishes. And out in the community, like at Somervale and some of our community partners. I've also served on the Seed Grant Committee, where I was amazed at the creativity among the various applicants for grants, and I learned it doesn't take a lot of money to do something really incredible that supports our local food system. For the past 3 years, I've been on the Board Perpetuation Committee, and apparently we did a good job this year with 9 candidates, which is great. Through the member work I've done, I've met so many interesting and caring people between the employees at the co-op, other member workers, and then the people at the community partners. My experience with the co-op over the past 15 years has shown me not only what a treasure it is for our community, but it's also a wonderful, strong community in and of itself. I was honored to be appointed in January to fill a vacant seat, and I'm really looking forward to winning my own seat so I can continue working with my fellow board members to guide the co-op to a successful future. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Next we have John Tanis.
My mom would be proud that I have my iPad. My name is John. This is my first year of board membership, and in my 2 minutes, I want to share 2 things that I think I might want to hear about if I were in your seats, which are value alignment and the skill sets that I bring to the co-op. First, values. One of the things I value most in life is quality coffee, and to be honest, I think we can do better. That was a joke. I'm kidding. I mean, $3.29 for a cup of coffee, with half a cup of maple syrup is pretty good. What I really value more than anything is service. And for me, being of use to others gives meaning to my life. It makes life worth living. I really believe that once we've met our own needs, we have an obligation to try and meet others, to give. And that's what part of the co-op's ends are about. We meet our financial needs, and then we try to find ways to be of use to our member owners and our wider community. I was fortunate to have that modeled for me growing up, and that ethos has been my North Star. It guided me to Peace Corps service, a few years in nonprofits, a master's in public administration, where I learned about how to hold businesses accountable, and now here to wanting to be part of the board. In Burlington, I found different ways to serve. I've been part of a C-team basketball team at Edmonds. I have been a translator at the Family Room. I most recently was a coach on the UVM rowing team, and I still fill in as needed. Doing the work of listening to members of the community and trying to carry them forward, that's where I find meaning. And that's what I hope to continue bringing to the co-op. I'm almost done. The skill set I bring is representation, which I think is important in a co-op. In my role at the GAO Government Accountability Office, it's my job to dialogue with members of Congress, the folks who run our federal agencies, and also to liaise with people in their local communities, usually in rural and low-income areas. And to dialogue in order to make sure that low-income communities, every community, has their voice represented. My job is to listen, understand, and translate the perspectives of different groups here at the co-op. I want to use those skills to build better systems for capturing community voices and member interests. I'd be honored to keep serving and to keep being of use to you, the members. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And before I pass off the mic off to our next candidate, Sam, who is our current board president, I just wanted to thank all of the candidates and all of the members here who I hope will be voting beginning October 1st. Sam will tell you a little bit more about when you can vote. But really, as board members, we're here to serve the co-op membership and to help guide the co-op to a bright future. And we really love your support as members. And one of the ways you can do that is by voting for candidates. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina, and thank you to fellow candidates for giving a little presentation. I felt like pretty inspired by some of the things that you all shared, and some that shared on screen. I feel something that Shoshana said actually really resonated with me, which is that co-ops thrive when members show up. And I think that's very, very true. I think that boards thrive when directors show up. And so it was really exciting to hear so much energy from these candidates. I think the thing that really speaks to my own candidacy is mostly just that I'm here standing in front of you, and I've demonstrated that for the past 3 years. This has been important to me, and I've wanted more higher levels of responsibility, more meetings, more reading, more writing, which as a small business owner who works incredible hours, like normally you wouldn't want to ask for more, but this stuff's really really important to me, and I'm deeply passionate about helping my 12,000 fellow co-owners. I don't want to chew up too much more of your time, but I do want to say that it's so great to see so many candidates. Last time that I think we saw such a large field was the first time I ran unsuccessfully in 2019, and so it's great to see such interest in service. Let me remind everyone that elections are important, and our elections open on October 1st until the 21st. You can vote online on our Simply Voting platform. You're going to be getting an email about it. If you need to update your email, City Market staff is happy to help you with that, and please feel free to connect with the staff person tonight and we can help you. And that's it for elections. Next up, I would like to invite Vice President Mariela Torres, who's going to share about our Community Service Award.
Great, so with no further ado, I would like to introduce Bianca. Bianca has made a profound impact on Burlington through her commitment to public health, equity, and community wellness. At the Burlington Partnership for Healthy Communities, she leads efforts to prevent substance misuse and strengthen connections among youth, families, and neighbors. She also serves on the Board of Health and made history as the first immigrant woman elected to City Council, bringing inclusion and lived experience into decision-making. From mentoring young people to supporting local startups and advocating for healthier environments, Bianca consistently shows up with compassion, humility, and vision, leaving a lasting ripple effect on our city. Thank you, Bianca. You can come up and receive your award.
For all the work that they've done, and also to tell us their vision of what they need so that we can support them in return to bring their vision to life. So it's my honor. I'm so emotional because for Burlington Partnership, I organize yearly events, which is called Roots of Prevention, and to be on the other side of the receiving is so exciting. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, so we want to sprinkle a little more fun into this. And so we have a, not so much a quiz, but a little fun social experiment. These are 2 photos that we shared on our socials. We have a beautiful photo of Trillium Farm here on the left, and then we have a lovely photo of the downtown city market in the snow. With a show of hands, who thinks that Trillium Farms got more likes on our socials? That's a lot of hands. Okay, who thinks that the downtown with the snow got more likes? Oh, it's a dead tie. Well, the results were Downtown City Market. The people love our downtown city market.
All right, so at this point, we're going to move into more of the business part of the meeting. And I guess, as Bianca was saying, we, I think, as a community, but certainly as your co-op, are continuing to try to find ways to grow, right? And so we've shown this tagline of cultivating food for the greater good. And I hope it resonates with all of you, because I think we think about, obviously, our farmers, our producers, our local food systems, how we strengthen that. We also think about how we provide food access. There was mention about, from John Tanis, just around how we can better serve communities. And even in the broader co-op movement, there's been a real shift, certainly to grow and develop co-ops in a number of communities, but especially what we consider to be low-income, low-access communities, LILA communities. And there's been a real shift nationally to the see, because if you think about it, when we think about food access, it is those areas, and based on the history that we have in this country, there have been a number of areas that are really struggling, and food co-ops, especially in those areas, can really make a huge difference. With that, we're going to start off with just doing a quick snapshot of the year in review. I'll touch upon a number of things in here, thinking about our successes. There's a lot of things that we collectively have been able to achieve throughout the year. When we look at things like margin, so anyone who may know about sort of food retail, it's great that we have good sales, but also what's important is from that, what type of margins are we able to maintain? And unlike a traditional food retailer, where you can just negotiate with a lot of the large name brands and negotiate them down and possibly increase their margins, we have the extra sort of challenge to ensure that as we strengthen local food systems, what can be a win-win for all of our local producers and farmers and vendors. And that is a challenge, and that is a great strength, especially with our co-op. But at the same time, in a time when there's so much uncertainty, that's a challenge that we, I think, are closely monitoring and have done a really extraordinary job, which I'm so proud of with our staff, to have monitored and maintained throughout the year. The areas around the South End, I know that we have challenges in the downtown. In the South End, in many ways, as many people know, the Champlain Parkway project is slowly but surely going to be coming to an end, hopefully very soon, toward the end of next year. It was a 50-year project in the making. It's wonderful to see the progress that's being made. We certainly want to make sure that as the second phase completes, we are ready and prepared to be able to welcome additional customers and members And just as a side note, it typically takes about 7 years to convert a customer to a member. Not to say that, I'm talking to people who probably became members from day one. But we have that task in front of me. We want to be prepared. So we've been doing already a number of activities and projects within the South End to welcome that, but just getting really excited for that. Layouts and resets. So there's always room for improvement. And our teams have been working very hard across both stores, whether it be looking at trying to enhance merchandising, trying to look at really what customers and members are seeking, listening to that as you have probably sent in your asks and requests through the info ad channels or through the customer forums or even by word of mouth. And we're trying to respond to that in best ways possible so we can maximize and ultimately satisfy your needs, your wants, and your hopes. Instacart. So by a quick show of hands, how many people are familiar or have used Instacart? Okay, not a whole lot, and that's good. By the way, I don't use Instacart, or I haven't used Instacart necessarily, but Instacart is a digital platform, an e-commerce platform that is pretty well established throughout the country to be able to order goods in a very convenient way. We had actually looked into this type of platform based on some research we did in the marketplace, and we did it all across Chittenden County when we asked a good sample size, comparing ourselves to other food retailers, and we did this work about 2.5 to 3 years ago. To understand what are the barriers and why you don't think about City Market and River Co-op and or consider shopping at the co-op. And one of the key barriers, not surprisingly, was distance. Right? And the reality is, unlike a Hannaford, unlike many of the large retailers, we currently have 2 locations. We are doing our best with those 2 locations, but we recognize we're not suddenly going to increase our actual store footprint any further anytime soon at this point. So then as we think about that, we wondered how can we get to some other customers and hopefully soon to become members that are much farther away. And Instacart was very much a turnkey program, and it gives us the ability to actually have people shop as far away as an hour. Okay? An hour, right? So someone in St. Albans, and we've seen this in some of the data, where people from afar are shopping now at the co-op, virtually or digitally, because that barrier is not there. Right? And we want to see how we can grow that opportunity. So once again, a great success. We launched it softly in November, and then really more significantly as of January, and we've seen some really great results. Member benefits and upgrades, and hopefully some of you, if not all of you, have taken advantage of the 2 times a year member discount days. Right? So in many ways, we hope you as members feel the benefits of being a member of the co-op. We recognize, and especially because we've heard from many members of when patronage checks are going to come back. But in the meantime, because we are still going through some financial challenges where return to profitability won't be for at least another couple to 3 more years or so, that in the meantime we really wanted to find a more tangible way to show members and demonstrate to members how you can benefit from us. So this member discount day is going to be coming up, which I'll share in a further slide, but hopefully you will have all hopefully already experienced it at one point. Challenges, so a combination of really tariffs, political climate, and then inflation, affordability, right? Those 2 areas certainly impact us directly. Our neighbors in Canada, our neighbors in Mexico, they are important partners of ours. And especially when you look at some of the products that we source from them, there's been great uncertainty. And I think we've heard it on the news, so I'm not going to dwell into it a whole lot more. And certainly the political climate, we welcome all. We are inclusive. I didn't plan for this. And, you know, we have a lot of staff who are trying to make this country their home. And it's hard. You know, when we think about potential ICE raids that might be coming in. You know, when we heard about this early on, we really made and prepared because you can imagine many of our staff were quite nervous and continue to be nervous, right? Fearful. Of course, we know we have great documentation, we have great support, but that uncertainty remains. So that is a challenge, right? That's an emotional challenge that we all face, but certainly, especially for our new Americans. And we have many who work so hard every day. So that continues to be certainly a challenge. And then certainly the downtown environment overall, there's enough talk about obviously the safety concerns. You know, we're in a hard time. I've been the GM for a little over 10 years. You know, there's been a significant shift in how things have become more challenging in the downtown. And we, as the co-op, and the downtown store in particular, is really a microcosm of what is happening in the downtown. Right? You know, we have the highest per capita, I think, in the country around transient community. We have drug issues, you know, people shooting up in broad daylight. And we have theft, and we've experienced theft at the co-op. We've always experienced some level of theft, but especially the last 3-4 plus years, the numbers have increased, and the type of theft has become more brazen, and also combined with assaults. Right? And as you can imagine, as the co-op, and I think with any organization, safety remains our highest priority. There is nothing that supersedes safety. And so we are doing all that we can within our means, but it is certainly a challenging environment. And we know that this is something that the broader community is facing, so we are working in partnership. But just wanting to really find ways to really give some hope. And I think, you know, we feel, certainly the staff, that we have a responsibility to all of you as our members, but to the community to see how we can continue to play a key role in how we support a thriving and healthy community. And right now, Burlington needs our help. Okay, so let's talk about some numbers. I'm sure that some people are interested in this, around our sales growth. So as you can see, we've shown the last 5 years of sales growth. It's great to see the sales increasing. And in FY25, and for clarity, our financial year begins in July and goes to June. So this FY25 number is for July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. And as you can see, you know, we did about 59.5 million in sales, which is great, which is a great number. It's a fantastic number to see, driven by about 1.4 to 1.5 million transactions, right? And a transaction is one ring of the cash register, by the way, which doesn't necessarily equate necessarily one-to-one with people. So we have maybe conservatively saying around 3 million people that come through the co-op throughout the year. And if you look at the sales, really the split between downtown and South End has pretty much become equal. And then certainly the local aspects, it's wonderful to see because we really promote local, to see such a high percentage. We should be so lucky for this. As I talk to other co-ops, because of our very diverse agricultural economy, we're able to do this. And so many local businesses that are so committed to really working in partnership with us. And then certainly all of you make a huge difference as we look at close to 6% of sales coming from members. But what this chart doesn't show is that even though we met the sales or achieved the sales of 59.5 million, we were actually looking at sales of around 61 million. That's what we had budgeted for. So as much as it's great to see growth versus previous year, we have things like inflation. And the question that often gets asked in terms of, how much is inflation playing a role in this, because things have gotten more expensive. And it's very hard to quantify that. And so the challenge ahead is really about how can we continue to grow sales, which will really take, more members, hopefully buying more from the co-op, purchasing more for the co-op, taking those extra steps or time, as well as certainly from our side to be able to give you reasons to shop at the co-op. So just wanted to really say that even though it's wonderful to see these numbers, that we are behind in terms of our financial performance.
I want to take a moment to focus in on the local sales. You saw some of this information on the previous slide, but we wanted to highlight it. Our local sales were almost $24 million, and of our $60 million pie, that means almost 40% of all sales were local. To explain what local means and how we define local the same way the state does. And so that means products that are grown or manufactured within Vermont. And so when we buy a local product, it means we're supporting a local business that has local jobs that are occupied by our neighbors. And so there's a real immediacy. When we spend those $24 million, we're supporting our neighbors. We also were able to bring in 21 new vendors this past year. So 21 new local vendors. We're always connecting with vendors. A couple vendors that just this year joined us, we got Vermont Trade Winds, Young at Heart Ginger Beer, Sherpa Kitchen, and Gamel Garden Creamery. So we've been really excited to have them and others join us. We also, though, have had a slight dip in new vendors connecting with us this past year. We believe that that is a sign of the economy. And we are constantly in talks with vendors to try to support them and find ways to continue to support them.
So as you can see, as we talk about the co-op, because we are one co-op, we have two locations, our downtown sales have really struggled. Right? This is really driven by the number of transactions that we've seen as a pretty sharp decline in the downtown store. Some of it is not surprising. I'm sure many of you have probably thought this or even have your reasons potentially for not shopping in the downtown as much as in years past. Aside from the safety concerns, the construction, certainly happening on Main Street. And obviously we think about our Main Street businesses as well, who are being more directly impacted, but certainly the convenience factor has been challenging. And then right in the downtown store's backyard is the construction project with the old YMCA building. And as much as we are grateful to see construction happening there finally, that's a 2-year project. A 2-year project. We just started this summer. Now we're working closely with the city to see how best we can mitigate some of the construction sort of disruptions that would be impacting our downtown store parking lot. And I know many people are in here know about how much our parking lot is slightly criticized to the point we have a Facebook page that hates our parking lot downtown, but loves the co-op, I always bounce that out. Very passionate members, we know. But it is an area that is going to be an ongoing challenge for us. So just to let you know that we are working closely with the city. We have a great partnership with the city. We've been able to navigate challenging situations, but just understand and we ask for your patience, especially as we know that the downtown parking lot can become very crowded, as we know throughout the years. At the same time, the South End growth has been significant. This has not been surprising either. Part of it is, yes, we've seen some migration of sales from the downtown to the South End. But the reality is that if we look at the number of transaction declines happening in the downtown and the increase in transactions in the South End, it doesn't balance out, it doesn't make up. Because the reality is that the downtown does about 2/3 more transactions than, about 30 to 40% more transactions than the South End. And even though the basket sizes are indeed larger in the South End, you can imagine, it still doesn't make up that gap. So, we've been making efforts to look at our merchandising, our product offerings that also differ to some extent by store. You can imagine the prep foods, many people coming in sandwiches, hot bar, cold bar, especially in the downtown. Hopefully some people might have taken advantage of the soup bar that is there. But also just offerings in general in the downtown have changed or have evolved. And at the same time, extending the hot bar, cold bar hours, let's say in the South End, is one of the areas. The wellness reset that we've done, beer and wine is another area that we've been addressing throughout the year. So there are a number of things that we're doing, but the downtown challenges are broader than just, obviously all the promotional activities or the changes that we'll be able to make. And we recognize that, but we, once again, will do our best to continue to look at both stores and see how collectively we can grow. This is a new slide that we put in for the first time. Once again, as I said earlier, we've heard from members about the pensions refund checks. In our hearts, we want to give them. We do. And the reality is that once we return to profitability in the next few years, 2 to 3 years, we are on schedule for that. We will be able to get to that point. But in the meantime, we just wanted to remind everyone that we do a number of discounts for members on an ongoing basis. And we decided to tally up what they equated to, and it's about $1.5 million worth. And as you can see, promotions include member worker discounts, as well as what we call Take Care Tuesdays, Bulk Up Thursdays. Those are the bulk and supplement discounts, 10%. For all members, but certainly customers too. And then certainly the various discounts we have for our seniors, our Food for All members, as well as our local business and nonprofits. And so it was just wanting to remind everyone, because I think sometimes we get so used to these things, but these are the things that we are continuing to manage throughout.
We've got another fun social slide here with a couple of photos for us to enjoy. So 2 photos. First one on the left, we've got beautiful raspberries from Adams Berry Farm, and on the right, that is the original sign of the co-op back when it was on Archibald Street. Who thinks that the raspberries got more love online? Okay, we got a couple hands. All right. Who thinks that the OG co-op sign from Archibald Street? All right, you all are right. Absolutely.
Okay, so next, I would be so remiss not to really highlight something that I think at the co-op we really treasure and value, and that is our staff, right? Yes. They could be clapping all night. And as you say that, I did, and I don't mean to embarrass these people, but we have some staff in our audience today. Can I ask the staff to please stand? So if I had my way, we could do a standing ovation for at least 10 minutes and totally embarrass them. But, I think everyone knows this, but our staff works so hard. It's amazing. I'm going to get emotional again. We have, about 290 staff that work hard to really serve all of you and our customers in the community every single day. I know that Sam in his opening shared how a high percentage live in Burlington and really walk to especially the downtown store. And they're driven, they're motivated, they're fun, they're engaging. They go the extra mile each and every time. They're kind, and they're caring. And we've recently done even exit studies of staff who are leaving us to talk about the cooperation, the support they get amongst each other. And it was an extremely high percentage. I think it was 80%. Right? And these are exit interviews where you can say anything you want. There's no obviously impact to what they say, but it was just great to see that, and also about how really that they were committed to the mission. They're committed to the mission of the co-op. So, we would just ask that, as you shop in future at the co-op, thanking our staff, because I certainly do that every chance I get. I think would go a long way, especially as we think about trying to continue to build our resilience and appreciation for all the work that they do. So. We also, our union environment, a very mature partnership, UE 203, United Electrical Workers. And we are in the second year of a 2-year contract. And once again, these are some statistics that we just wanted to share with you. We have really worked collectively, both management and union teams have worked hard throughout the years to ensure that we can do our best in a sustainable way to be able to support, pay, and provide benefits to our staff. Right? And so with that, we have that contract coming to an end as of next June. So we'll be going to negotiations. And every year we have negotiations. We've always been able to really negotiate in good faith. We look forward to this. And once again, overall, because of that, and I think the efforts of that goodwill, we have seen our retention rates really rise. Our turnover rates used to be as high as in the 70s. Right? In the last couple of years, they went down to the 60s. And now we're down to the early 50s. Right? And the industry standard still is around the 70s. And once again, we understand that food retail work is hard. It is very hard. So it's just great to see, that partnership, that relationship, and that support that we give ourselves to be able to ultimately do the best we can to serve the community.
So I want to share a few things about our membership, our member owners, the 12,230 so of us. We are still experiencing an increase from what was a big COVID dip. So please continue to recruit your friends and fellow shoppers that if they're not members yet, a great time to join. With our memberships, we also have these wonderful membership perks through our Members Go Local programs. And so our Members Go Local programs partners with local businesses to give different sorts of discounts and opportunities for members there. 10% here, 10% there, different types of great programs. But we have applications open right now through the end of this month, through the 30th of September. If you have a small business, or if you know a small business who might be interested in participating in the Members Go Local program, that would be great to get an application in these next couple days of the month. I also want to remind everyone that our upcoming member discount days is October 28th through 30th. I saw that we did have little reminder cards out in the lobby. Take that, put it on your fridge or on your dashboard so you don't forget to take advantage of that great opportunity.
Okay, so really wanted to talk about member work, and it's great to see the stats. You can all, I'm sure, read them and be amazed by them, but I did want to ask a quick show of hands. How many people in here have done member work over the last 12 months? Quick show of hands. Great. Thank you. Thank you for your volunteer work. So, I think this is one area that I know that we continue to be amazed at because we have these great nonprofit partners in the community who really have appreciated the opportunity to have all of you help them on their missions. And 18,000 hours, that's a lot of hours. I believe, and Jesse over United Way might challenge me on this, but I think we have the highest number of hours, or one of the highest, certainly in the city of Burlington, in terms of volunteer hours. And so, just really wanted to thank you all for taking the time to really support the community in these ways. And I was talking to some members earlier today, and they talked about how, it was learning about the co-op and the opportunity to be able to work at some nonprofits that allowed them to learn how special our community is overall. So, thank you.
All right, we've got one last social slide here with a couple great photos that we've shared already. On our left, we have our friend and former employee Julian with his delicious ginger beer. And on the right, we have the owners of Cider Lab with their adorable puppy. Who thinks the ginger beer was the winner online? That's a lot of hands. Okay, who thinks that the dog picture? Okay, it was the ginger beer. The ginger beer won there.
Yeah. And I will say just on that picture, because Jules is was a former fabulous employee, Young at Heart Ginger Beer, it is unbelievable. So he doesn't know that I put that plug in. Okay, so in terms of community impact, now you can imagine that this is one of the areas that is close to certainly the staff's heart, but certainly to my heart. I mean, Food for All members, right? They make up about 9% of our membership. These are members who are being supported by some form of federal grant, EWIC, food stamps program. Right? And this is key to the work that we do. We talk about food access. And this stat talks directly to that. And I know that we have made efforts and continue to make efforts to translate our information in the various communities to ensure that there isn't, or we try to at least lower the barrier to understanding about taking advantage of this program. And that's a 10% discount on all your purchases across the store. And then this was pre-COVID, but pre-COVID we did a focus group to Food for All members to ask them, how can we enhance this benefit in a way that would be meaningful to you? And we heard very clearly that if we could increase even the discount for produce and for bulk items, that would be a great benefit. So what did we do? We made it 15% for those two departments. So you can imagine the savings that the Food for All members have, around $281,000, goes towards other critically important needs that those members have. And so, we are continuing to promote this. We had seen some flattening of this stat throughout FY25, but actually we've seen some growth of more members in FY26, which started obviously in July. So that's been a great trend to see.
Also want to recognize all of the ways that City Market contributes through donations and sponsorships. You can see the numbers right up there with our community donations and sponsorships, $27,000. I want to give a few examples of sponsorships, which include the Old North End Farmers Market, Jazz Fest, and the King Street Center. And also organizations that have received direct donations include the Resource Center, Champlain Housing Trust, and the Pride Center. We also have our Rally for Change program, and I spoke to that at the beginning in my remarks. And we just reached an incredible milestone in 2025 we broke over $2 million total in the history of our Rally for Change donated to our local nonprofit organizations, which is amazing. So again, thank you to all of our members and customers who have opted to round up. Participating in this program has touched over 200 local nonprofit partners. Before we dig into our Q&A, I want to give a final reminder to please vote for the board, right? You got to hear from those who are running tonight. And again, the voting is online on our Voting Simple platform, October 1st through 21st. Check your email for instructions.
Great. So with that, we're going to move into the Q&A portion. We're even ahead of our schedule. This is unbelievable. And so, first of all, just wanted to say that Sheree who, by the way, just so everyone knows, she's our Director of Community Marketing and also oversees our purchasing and merchandising. When all of you RSVP'd, we also put in a question to ask you if you had any questions you wanted to definitely ask at this meeting. Many of you, thank you, submitted questions, so we want to cover those first, and then we'll certainly open it up further for anyone's from the room. So with that,
Okay, so first one in my time here, this one always comes up, but why no profit sharing, member rebates, and patronage for the last few years? John, I'll tee you up for that one.
so as I mentioned earlier, so a little bit of history. So we opened the South End store in 2017, November 16th, by the way. And I keep on saying, we would never recommend that to a co-op to open on November 16th for obvious reasons. We had actually built in some cushion thinking we'd be opening up in June and July. But because of some building code related things got delayed. We were closer to the city. We were able to open smoothly. And you were all wonderful in terms of your shopping. But about 2 years prior to that, at a member meeting, I had shared that I wanted to prepare members to say that for a period of time, up to about 5 years, we were not going to be profitable. And that was planned. Why? Because the investment in the South End store was so significant. And we had saved a certain level of cash up until that point as well, but it was a pretty significant investment. We purchased the land, we built the building, we cleaned the land in ways that it couldn't be no cleaner. And so, there was a significant cost to that. And so we had anticipated 5 years to return to profitability. First 2 years, we were actually doing better than planned from a sales standpoint, right? And I talked to a member earlier today. When we were a one-store co-op, our last year as a single-store co-op, we did $42 million in sales in the one store, right? Unbelievable number, unbelievable. Second highest in the country for a single store co-op, second highest, right? So it was an amazing stat. And the member asked me saying, John, do you think it was a good idea that we actually expanded and built another store? And I said, yes, because the reality is even at $42 million for the downtown store at the time, we had significant safety concerns, right? And just to put it in perspective, that's about 4 times what, at the time, really well-to-do Whole Foods would be doing. 4 times, right? So in 12,000 square feet, 42 million in sales is an unbelievable, unheard of stat, right? Yes, it is still an amazing stat, right? So once again, the decision to move to become a multi-store co-op, I think, was really an important decision, especially for the safety of our staff and for our members and our customers. And so once again, we had this plan, 5-year return to profitability. Well, COVID happened. Up until that point, things were moving along quite well. February 2020 onwards, peak COVID, I'll call it peak COVID happened. And then for the next 2.5 years, we all know the type of chaos and uncertainty this country was going through, let alone the world. And certainly with food retail, it was unbelievably unpredictable, right? And so that really flattened our sales at the co-op. And even though there was a surge for the first month and a half, we did 2 things that we recognized was going to be impacting us for the longer term. The first thing was that for the safety of our staff, our members, and our customers, we limited store capacity to 15%. Right? And by the way, there was no entity that suddenly said you should reduce it to X percent. We looked at things ourselves and thought we were overly cautious, right? That is the way that we have always been because safety is our highest priority. So we reduced it to 15%. We also required masking. And I remember the early weeks of masking. No one had done it, right? And I think board members, from back then who are also in this room will know that we knew the criticism that was potentially going to come for that. It wasn't a proven thing to do per se, but we did it partially. I can say this now, so my heritage is Japanese. I was born and raised in the US, but my heritage is Japanese, and I've lived in Japan too. And in Asia, it's actually quite common to mask in the winter and the spring in a number of Asian countries. And that is because in the winter with colds, you don't want to spread the colds. In the spring, because of pollen. And so there were many Asian countries that were doing that. We were in a bit of a situation where we were wondering what to do, limiting store capacity, and we decided to embrace masking. Right? We required it for our staff. There was pushback. One of the few times where I think we had to just say, this is what we're doing. And then 2 weeks later, we asked customers to mask. And I do remember at the time a city councilor came in, and I think I was packing some produce, but the person said, John, it's a horrific thing that you did with requiring masking for customers. Very, very angry about that, and we had a number of members who were waiting outside in the cold and being very angry and such. And so we had, once again, it was a very uncertain time, understandable. But because of those, and then we retained our staff. We decided to make the conscious decision that there was so much uncertainty. There were other organizations that had to lay off staff, eliminate positions. We took the decision really unanimously at the time to say we were going to retain our staff, find ways, creative ways to have staff do different jobs. So we have sales plummeting or flattening. We have increased costs because of all the safety materials that we tried to get hold of and sometimes couldn't get hold of and such. And we had customers, we limited on purpose, coming into our stores. So that effect had a much longer term effect. Now we did apply for a PPP loan, so we did get some forgiveness, which was very helpful. But 2.5 years later, we were finally in a position to be able to reforecast, because we had some stability in the marketplace. I think people also remember it was hard to even get supplies of products because everyone was ordering so much more and the distributors couldn't cover it. And that's where our local food system was such a strength for us, right? We couldn't get products that were mainstream, but we could get local chicken, local eggs, local milk, local bread, syrup, of course, a variety of things, right? And so there is the strength of really being grounded and connected to local businesses and the local system. But at that point, 2.5 year mark, we did a reforecast, 2023, in the fall. And we, after calculating in terms of how we saw still some uncertainty, we calculated that it was going to take us 10 years from the time we opened the South End store instead of the 5. And that we were going to manage that through the losses with the cash that we had, anticipating some growth in sales. And so, we sit here today and we update that financial forecast every year, every fall, and the board will know this, and if you've been on the board, you will know this too. We update that with the board to say, how did we do in the previous financial year? And then how does that impact our future forecast? Is it still valid? And we are still on schedule. So at this point, we're probably about 2.5 years away from returning to profitability. But it is tight. There is no doubt that it is tight. And we have made our sales forecast much more conservative in the future years. But even with that, we have some challenges, that is for sure. So that's a long way of, and I hope you do find it helpful, because I've shared this at other member meetings too, but I think it's just good to remember that when we talk about the co-op and living our values, there are consequences to really how we maintain our co-op values and caring for our staff, valuing our staff, thinking about the safety of all of us is a key part of that. So with that said, the patrons refund question, we hope in 2.5 years, FY28, that we'll be able to maybe be sitting here and saying, we'll be able to provide a patron's refund. But in the meantime, we do ask you to shop at the co-op. Get your friends, your family, anyone you know to give us a try. Because we will work our very hardest to make sure your experience is as good as it can be, and hopefully through that process also learn about how we're all supporting the growth of the local economy.
Okay, this one came through in many different versions, so I tried to dial it all in, but I read the 7 Days article about City Market having financial issues. Please explain in detail what the situation is. Since reading about this, has the situation gotten better, worsened, or remained basically the same? And what is the prognosis for City Market's future?
So the history is what I just shared. And we've been really transparent about this at member meetings and also with our staff throughout the years. So when that article came out, we had actually a number of members come to us and say, there wasn't anything really new in that, but because it was printed, is there something you need to tell us? And we responded, especially Sheree and I, saying, no, nothing has really changed. And we understand, by the way, media people, for the most part, they want attention to their articles. We understand that. We spent a significant amount of time working with 7 Days to share information, mostly in writing, around the accuracy of the information that we wanted them to print. And once again, being fully transparent but fair, we were a bit disappointed in how the article came out, because there were many things that were taken out of context, and we spent I think at least 10 plus hours. The interview itself was an hour and a half to share information. But once again, we wanted to assure you, and that's why probably a couple of weeks or a few weeks after that article came out, because we did get some inquiries, even our bank contacted us and said, John, we know about this. There's nothing new there, but because it got printed, do you need to tell us something? And so, Amanda, our finance director, and myself met with the bank and said, actually, there's nothing new to tell. It's the same story that we've been sharing, but it was maybe slightly misrepresented. And so all that's to say is that, to rest assured, we sent out a message to members shortly after, just assuring you that, once again, we are here for the long term, right? We have you. And so, for us, we have had some people ask us, the downtown's so hard, do you think about moving? And we also respect that there are businesses downtown that have struggled so much that they have actually moved or, moved slightly away into other parts of Vermont, which is understandable. But for us, I think we think about, this is when the community needs us most. So, we're here to stay. But to do that, we need all of your support. And when I say support, your actions of shopping the co-op is probably the most powerful, because it sends a clear message to the community that we're here. And we know Burlingtonians, we know Vermonters, are resilient. And so we just wanted to really reference that in full transparency. And we hope, if you do get asked by others, yes, the competitive environment is pretty severe. The Trader Joe's, the Target, certainly Healthy Living, Market 32, Price Chopper, Jake's One Market. We have many, many food retail options in the community. But we feel that we're member owned. We offer a different proposition. You know that. That's why you shop at the co-op. That's why you come to member meetings. That's why you volunteer. That's why you get to learn about the nonprofits. We're, I think, can be very proud of what we've been able to do and will continue to do in the community.
Okay. What planned strategies are in place to bring shoppers back to the South End store to improve the financial performance?
So, we talked a little bit earlier. The South End store's growth actually has been very, very good. But we certainly think we can take more advantage and possibly cater more to customers and members. So part of that is offering more prep foods items, especially extending out the hours. I know that a lot of people had written in past about having the full breakfast offerings instead of just sandwiches, which we have brought back, and so we received a number of comments around that. And at the same time, we're able to continue to keep, let's say the bulk area much better stocked, partially because we have space in the back and above to be able to fill those bins much more efficiently versus in the downtown, where we can sometimes be a little cramped for space. The other is on Instacart. So when we talked about the benefits of Instacart, we anticipate that Instacart may make up maybe up to about 1% of our annual sales. So if we're looking at about 60 million, simple math, if we can get the 600,000, that would be a great achievement. Right now, in these first 9 months of this calendar year, we've generated about 260,000, right? And the interesting thing with that is that we had about 600 new users who shopped at the co-op through Instacart, right? And then the other thing is the basket size is much larger, about $120 worth. So just to put that in perspective, in the downtown store, I think the average basket size is in the 30s, and then in the south end, it's around the late 30s to early 40s. Right? So you can see how Instacart can have its benefits, and it removes that barrier. Now, I will say, it is also a little more expensive on Instacart because you are paying for the convenience. Right? But we've seen a lot of growth across the co-op and from that standpoint, but with the south end, because once again, depending on certain items, a lot of the Instacart shoppers are also coming to the south end to shop because they're bigger baskets, and it is easier to get through the aisles than the downtown. Granted, I always think the coziness of the downtown is a real benefit too. And then certainly when the Champlain Parkway concludes, once again, toward the end of 2026, we are looking forward to even welcoming more customers, and hopefully, people coming off 89 and coming straight down to South End would be a nice thing to see. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to upgrade areas. The beer and wine section, that's another area that we've been working hard on. It's the industry itself is gradually sort of on the decline. We have seen decline in sales for quite a number of years, but we have changed some of the offerings there. We've also put in electronic shelf tags, if you haven't noticed. They're hard to notice, actually, because they blend quite in, so we can be much more accurate in terms of pricing. And certainly around the selection, we have a person dedicated to beer and wine, what we call the category, and managing that now at the co-op. So we hope to, once again, have selections that are, and that, especially beer in the downtown, wine in the south end, that seems to be more of what people seem to prefer. I don't drink, so I just live vicariously through everyone. But just to say that, we're constantly looking at improvements.
In terms of expense losses, where are you finding the biggest inventory issues and losses?
So inventory is an interesting one, and we've done a lot of work throughout the last 12 months in fiscal year 25 to better monitor and manage our inventory. And this is really the great work. We have a new director of finance that joined us in October of last year. She is in the back, Amanda. She has been really busy at work, working with our teams to make sure that we are not carrying too much inventory, right? And you might be wondering, well, how can you carry too much inventory, let's say in the downtown, when the space is so limited? And you would be right. We don't carry as much inventory. However, we have found that some of the products have expired. And we just need to really clean those out. And so we've been doing that since January to June. And so our inventory levels are much more, I would say, appropriate in terms of what we're carrying. South End, we had actually the opposite issue. We had, I think people got a little carried away because we had a little more space. to what they had been used to, and so we had been carrying more inventory, and so we've pared that down too. So, and right now in this fiscal year, one of our most significant, if not our top initiative, is to install a new purchasing and ordering system. This will give us better accuracy in terms of what we have sold on the floor and what we have ordered and what is in the back. And so, once again, continuing to find ways to improve our operational efficiency. And that is the way we'll look at inventory, but also across the board in terms of products that we're carrying.
Okay, what are the recruitment efforts over the past year? How successful have they been?
Recruitment efforts. So first of all, as I mentioned, retention levels have improved drastically. We also have continued to provide a bonus referral to existing employees. If they're able to refer someone, because we know the power of the word of mouth, and that they are employed with us beyond 3 months, they receive a bonus. And I believe for the fiscal year for 25, we gave out $5,500 to our employees for the word of mouth referral work that they did, which is phenomenal. And so, for us, we continue to advertise in the normal spaces that you would expect. But the word of mouth really is what we have found to be most powerful. And it's great to see as when we hear about people joining, why they learned about the co-op. And many of them say, well, my friend works here, family member works here, someone I know works here. They highly recommended it. And I'd like to think that, we do a lot of work to nurture and develop our staff. We have a lot of internal promotions that we focus on. We have a wellness adventure that happens throughout the year, including most recently we completed a Walk Vermont program, and it's amazing how competitive some people can get to win some prizes. Certainly with Halloween coming up, if you haven't experienced, we will all be dressing up. It's actually my favorite time of year. I don't think a GM used to dress up prior to me, but and then also, just the fact that I think we have a lot of people who are concerned and want to give back to the community. And one of the ways, if they can do that as part of their work, it's just a way that works for them. So we respect all the different reasons why staff come and work for us. And some work for us temporarily. They may go back to school, move to another state, and then come back. And we have a lot of returning people. So it's a combination of things, but also our people and culture team, and Trish, who is our director of people and culture, she's here. They've really worked hard to really see how best to support staff. And I think that has had a trickle-down effect across recruiting and attracting new staff.
Can City Market somehow become a temporary benefactor of its own rally program? The money gained would be timely during these strange economic times.
So I see some eyebrows in the audience. So I think the idea is an interesting idea, but for us, really, I think we have tried to really stay committed to dedicating the Rally for Change that you donate so kindly, that we just hold and distribute 100% to our nonprofit partners. So for the time being, as much as we appreciate the suggestion, we're going to probably stay the course because there are a lot of nonprofits there, especially in this political climate, that could really benefit from any additional funding that they can receive.
How can we further discourage consumption of plastic products given the limited recycling capacity of the U.S. and the unhealthy nature of current disposal and incineration?
This is a complex topic. I think, we don't talk about it as often as we should, but gotten better at it, that we're certainly very mindful of our footprint. And each year, I talk about some of the efforts that we've made, but the reality is that there's always so much more to do. When we think about plastics, the reality is that we had wanted to make the move to compostable plastics pre-COVID, right? And actually, we had bought compostable plastics up until that point. We changed out all of our utensils, our various sort of takeaway boxes and such to that. We have a very close working relationship with Chittenden Solid Waste. And then we learned that Chittenden Solid Waste wasn't going to be able to handle compostable plastics for a variety of reasons. And it really put us in a difficult place. Right now, just as a stat, so 40% of the waste that we generate is composted because we have a lot of food waste and such. 40% of our waste is recycled, right? And then 20% is landfill. So it's still a high number. And so one of the things that we are continuing to look at is we want to make sure that, yes, in the packaging that we bring and offer, whether it be through our Hot Bar Cold Bar or even those that we sell, are ones that really people can utilize. But some of the challenges that people may not know of is that when we looked at compostable utensils, and having worked in the environmental space before I came to the co-op, we've actually heard back from members and customers that because our products, especially our hot bar cold products, are very hot, compostable plastics have melted when they've used them. I know it sounds really strange, but I've actually witnessed it. And our soups are extremely hot. Many of our hot bar items are very hot, and so when they've used their forks, their spoons, literally, they've melted. And so, and we sell compostable utensils as well. And so we know this firsthand. So we're continuing to look at how can we find an alternative to some of the packaging. But the reality is it's very difficult because we want to be mindful of the prices of those products. And I'm certainly talking with other GMs of other co-ops to see how they're addressing it. The challenge that we have is because we generate so many transactions a day, there are only probably about 15 to 20 co-ops across the country that are in the same realm that we are. And I'm talking to them to find out what types of solutions, because ultimately we don't want to raise prices, but at the same time we also want to reduce our impact. So having said that, we are trying to reduce our impact in other ways. And that is everything from certainly the energy use within our stores. I think everyone hopefully knows about the fact that the South End store is generated on a transcritical CO2 refrigeration system, the first to have done it in Vermont. That's exciting energy, people, probably saying that. And then certainly just in terms of our packaging in general, when we look at paper packaging, finding ways to make sure that we can recycle that in the most efficient way possible. We do use our plastics with a business to be able to redirect them to make decks. That is something that we have done in the past and continue to do. So it's an ongoing challenge. There's no sort of clear answer to be able to I think, address the question, but just to say that we're continuing to explore options.
Okay. Does City Market subscribe to Migrant Justice Milk with Dignity program that pays farm workers minimum wage and gives them decent working conditions?
So we have been a supporter of Migrant Justice for a number of years. We have certainly supported them through our seeding grant program. We've also made donations, and we are striving with our vendors to be able to sort of meet those conditions and such. So, from that standpoint, we believe in fair practices. Obviously, we have a number of fairly traded products as well, always trying to expand those. So, overall, we are just striving to do that and then finding opportunities to do so.
I want to be mindful of time. We're at like 19 minutes and not a lot of people have gotten to ask in the audience. So do we want to open it up? And if not, we can revisit.
Right, so we're going to have Lauren go around with the mic.
Hi, I'm always happy to be here at this meeting. And I have two questions. One is quick, and that is how many board of director seats are open? The second is a bigger one, and so, and it's a hard question to ask. my family of just 3. We live near the South End store, and we shop probably amongst us every day. It's really our only store. But that means we're very close with the staff. And so there was a period of time where the staff were quite upset that at least 6 staff members, their jobs ended, and then a 7th. And it's been so wonderful to always, to hear how great and how committed you are to the staff, but I feel like it's a missing moment to comment on these folks who are no longer with us, and just the way that things need to end, it's not an easy one, I know, for those folks or for you. So if you could respond to that experience, that would be really wonderful.
I'll volunteer to take that easy question, the first one. As you heard, we have 9 candidates running, and we have, I believe, 4 spots.
Yes, and by the way, of those 4 spots, 3 are 3-year term spots, and 1 is a 1-year term spot. So I so appreciate you raising that question. I was wondering if it was going to come, and was hoping it was going to come in many ways, because to your point, we value our staff. And yes, one of the things that happened throughout the latter part of the last fiscal year is we had what we reference as an elimination of positions within the co-op. We have not done, we've over the years held back on certain positions that had gone vacant, but we hadn't necessarily done an elimination of positions, certainly with general staff, in a very long time. Right? And just for further context, I think since then, I think many people might have heard in the community around how there are many other organizations, including the city, that have had to, what is referenced as layoffs, in quite a number of people in light of some of the challenge budgetarily and also around sales. For us, we took a great amount of due diligence to see how we could retain our staff, right? So just for additional context, out of the 6 positions that we eliminated, actually 4 we were able to find positions to be able to stay with us, right? And that process was actually fairly quick. But the reality is that, as you saw from when I talked about our sales, we fell about $1.2 million short in sales for FY25. Right? And you'll see this in the annual report that will be coming up in January, but we will have had a loss of about 1.8 million for the year. That is the largest loss that we have had, certainly in my 10 years at the co-op, and since we opened the South End store. Because every year we would have losses. Maybe there would be around 600, 7,000, 900,000, but never this high. And a lot of that was driven by the fact that sales performance was so, the decline was so significant to the budget. So, all that being said, once again, we are wanting to prevent that type of situation in future, and it was a very hard decision. We took a tremendous amount of time just to see how we could manage through it, but the reality is, and once again, when we opened the South End store, we took the downtown store model and essentially applied it to the South End store. And when we were in the downtown store, we were in a very financially abundant position, and it was wonderful. And then when we opened the South End store, for the first couple of years, we wanted things to settle because there was enough change to open up a second location. We changed operational practices, and people were going through a culture change. And so typically after that second year, we were going to look at possibly making some changes. But it was right at that point, peak COVID happened. So not only are we in this really difficult place, but we have now uncertainty that no one really has an understanding of. And so we had to endure another 2.5 years of uncertainty trying to retain people because the emotional challenge was so high. So we finally came out of that. We want things to settle. And then last year was the year when we said we need to make some changes for the sustainability of the co-op. So, it was a very difficult situation. Once again, we are continuing to be in some financial challenges, but we've been able to better manage some of those things, so we want to avoid at all costs that type of situation in future. So we have taken some steps. We certainly had some learnings to that process as well. And once again, we do value our staff. It's just that we also have to think about what is sustainable for the co-op. And we're doing our best to make sure that we don't have that type of situation in future. Hopefully that gives a little more context.
This hand first, and then I'll come back to you. Can you pass this down for me? Thank you.
Hello. Sit back down because that seems like the vibe. Okay. My name is Megan. I've been a co-op member for over 3 years. I'm a high school science teacher, and I'm also a member of the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation. I would like to ask the board members and the GM present, and then I'm also curious in the board candidate opinions about the process of making City Market an apartheid-free community and discontinuing the sale of all products sold by corporations that monetarily benefit from and therefore support apartheid and genocide. Currently, this includes products from Nestle, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Keurig Dr. Pepper. These were all the brands I could find at the downtown City Market, but I'm sure there are others. In my mind, selling these products goes directly against co-op goals and values. Is this a process the board would be willing to open a dialogue about and or work collaboratively towards?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a very big one, and that's certainly one that I would want to talk about in consultation with my fellow board members. And I welcome the opportunity to connect with you after this large group so I can, get your contact information, write down some details about that. And I really appreciate you bringing that one forward. John, do you want to add anything?
No, I think that was...
Hi, my name is Miyako Ozeki, and I wanted to know, because you talked about food access, and particularly as we know, there's a lot of rescission on SNAP dollars, and we know that a lot of people are going to be impacted. I used to run the Burlington Farmers Market, so I know how significant using SNAP and EBT is. In your food for all, in your total sales, how much in dollars or percentage of customers are utilizing SNAP benefits at the store? And in anticipation of the need for food and everything else, but also cuts to those benefits, how are we going to account for, trying to provide more food for those folks?
So like I said, we'd have to follow up with you in terms of the actual percentages around that. SNAP is certainly continuing to be a focus for us. What I can share with you and with any member too, every year as part of our ends report, so our ends being our mission, we talk about our food for all members, and we actually divide out percentages of sales coming from different aspects of it. I must say that off the top of my head, I don't know the numbers, so I can get your details afterwards and follow up with you. But I will say that from our standpoint, in terms of trying to continue to address ways to promote food access, that is something that is key to our mission. So I think we will be looking at other alternative ways, especially with some of the changes that we anticipate coming. I think that's the best I can probably answer with you. Does that? Yep. So, I can, once again, I'll follow up with you afterwards and get your details, and we can further talk as well.
Hi, my name is Amanda, and I don't know. I don't have anything more personal to say than that. I have a comment and a question, and if you want to comment on the comment, I'd appreciate that. one of the challenges I have in the South End store with using prepared foods and the hot bar and the sandwich bar is that I never know when it's going to be open. So, for example, the hours change, and so if I know I need lunch, I can't rely on, and I'm driving by, I sometimes will go to Great Harvest instead because I just know their hours, and I know I can get something. And I've been to City Market and been disappointed in terms of not being able to get lunch. And then a question about the benefits to the Onion River Co-op and City Markets of member shoppers. I remember hearing long ago that there is a tax benefit perhaps to the co-op. And so it's not necessarily just the number of memberships, but the dollars that are spent by those members. And so if you could just maybe explain that, and also maybe remind people about that in the greater community.
Great. Well, thanks for your question. So I'll take the second one first. So for the second one, I think the question is, are there any tax benefits with member purchases at the co-op? And there is. So for member purchases, we are taxed, or we are not taxed, because those purchases are viewed as if we are a nonprofit. However, for non-members, we are taxed like any other business. So there's a tax benefit for sure. And the way that co-ops occupy an interesting space, not just in Vermont, but in other states, but I know specifically for Vermont, we are viewed as a C corporation. That is what they call us. So we can actually apply for grants, recognizing that our nonprofit status is so much larger than our for-profit status, and that is really driven by the number of members and your purchases. It's not necessarily the number of members, but more around how much of your sales is being generated by members. So there is definitely a tax benefit from that standpoint, and thus, close to 60% of sales coming from members is a tremendous benefit to the co-op as a whole. When you look at year-end sales and how much is taxed versus not. Now, with that said, when you're in a period of unprofitability, it's a little bit different than when you start to be profitable, but nonetheless, there's definitely a tax benefit. First, to your point around consistency of opening times with the prep foods area or the hot bar, cold bar. We do have challenges in the South End in particular. We don't actually have this challenge in the downtown, but around staffing levels for prep foods. And that is why we struggle at times to be able to maintain a certain level of opening times with the South End. For prep food specifically, and for hot bar, cold bar specifically, because the preparation work is happening. Now, that's not to say that the staff that we do have are not working hard. They're working incredibly hard. And many a times our managers have to step in and support and actually make the food. And fortunately, they were the ones who really prepared much of the food you saw outside today or in the hall today to be able to cover. But there's only so much cover that we can provide. And we are trying to continue to recruit, especially for that prep foods department for the South End. But it proves to be challenging, partially because I think the work is hard. And for many people, unlike the downtown, which doesn't have any issues in the prep foods department, is because of distance, where people can walk. Many of our staff walk to the downtown store. Many aren't necessarily in the same position for the South End. But all that being said, I think we can do a better job, and I think we'll take that comment back to see how we can better maybe communicate, the hours of it. Yes, so we'll definitely take that feedback, because we can probably do a better job in terms of how we think about that. Other questions?
Coming. Makes a weird noise when I walk.
Your answer about member purchases being taxed differently, That's brand new to me. I wonder if you could say a few more words about it.
So I think it goes down to the way the states view member ownership with co-ops, and so the legalities are really what dictate that. It's not as if we are trying to ask for some forgiveness with member sales legally from the state standpoint, and I don't think we're unique in Vermont to this. Other states have the same laws, that as a member owner, someone who is invested in your organization, actually has put up equity into your organization, that when they purchase from you, you are very much viewed like a non-profit because you were invested. In the same way I guess, I'm just trying to think, it would be the same as, well, it would be once again a co-op model as well, but there are different types of co-ops out there. We are a consumer cooperative. There are others that are producer cooperatives, and if they buy from themselves, that they are taxed differently. So, I don't know if that's a great answer. I can follow up further because I can try to find the legal interpretation or the actual legal language that reflects why member owner purchases at the co-op are viewed as a nonprofit.
Thank you. Is it that you pay taxes on the profit of what members buy in a different way than you pay taxes on what non-members buy?
Yes. Yeah, so it's totally based on the profit that we generate. Yes, on the sales. Exactly. Yep. Oh, another question.
Over here.
People to become members. It seems like there's not a real big push to become members. I've seen at the cash register to say it's really not worth it for you to become a member. Well, we're the savings anymore, right? I mean, we're not saving a lot when we're members. We don't get the cash back, right?
Well, I guess this is where, so I probably didn't do it as good a job, but first of all, if I put the financial benefits aside for a moment, at the very purest form, it is really about having ownership in the organization that you're purchasing at, right? That is really at its very purest form. As it relates to the financial benefits, as I sort of tried to share earlier, we recognize that there is no patronage refund check that's going to be coming your way. However, if you think about, you pay $15 a year for membership. Of course, some of you are probably, or many of you are probably full equity members, so $200 for becoming a full equity member, and makes no difference. But if you think about our member discount days, okay, and just to give you a sense, I think at the May member discount day, there were about 2,800 members that took advantage of that discount day period, right? And the highest basket size sale on that day was $1,500. Okay. Now I'm not expecting all of you to buy $1,500 worth of goods, but if you chose to, that would be fine too. But if you think about that, and you think about the 20% discount you receive. No, exactly. That's why I'm Do you want to comment on that?
Sorry, the microphone's weird. Yes, so we do a member drive leading up to member discount days, so it's actually great timing for our promotion that you're bringing this up. So October 1st, we're kicking off our member drive, and this year we're shifting it a little bit because we've had so many people renew and become members in October, so we're actually shortening it to be 2 weeks in October, but we are doing a $15 coupon for any new member. In literally to drive nothing but new membership, we're going to target college kids, really trying to get new people in. But the whole point of doing it is so those 3 days of member discount days, you can take advantage of it. Realizing that patronage checks were a big deal, and we're going to try to support you however we can until we get back to profitability. So, yeah.
I also just want to share a different angle, because we all have different kind of rapport and dynamics with our friends who push back at our choices. If one of my peers was asking me, why would I be a member if there's no financial perk to it? I would probably ask them about other memberships they might have, whether it be a $15 a month membership to Crunch Fitness, or an Audible Prime membership that they've fallen behind on, or even like I have a stack of Economist magazines that I feel like I should read because I paid for that subscription. So, but however, a co-op is an investment in something that's supporting your community and whose values I think we'd all agree to raise our children by. That's how I would deal with my friends if they've challenged me on it.
Great prompt question, thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I am very grateful for the information you've shared tonight, for the board, for you, John, for members, for employees. I feel like being a member of a co-op allows me to support my community, and I feel like the issues that you are dealing with as a business that we are dealing with are really hard and very intense. And I'm so grateful for the thought and the effort that's going into them. And I continue to be grateful when I think about a food store that provides health insurance for its employees. To me is an amazing thing. And I'm so happy to continue to support the co-op for the support that it gives to our community, to our local farmers, to our city. And I get it. I read and hear all the things about Burlington. I love my town. I'm grateful to live here. I'm grateful to be a part of this co-op, and I'm really, really, really grateful for all of you, for all of us who are doing the hard work. It's so appreciated, and I just want you all to keep doing it so I can continue to get great food. Thank you.
So that was almost perfect timing to almost feel like a closing. I would like to say, are there any other questions? We certainly wanted to make sure we had ample time to address everyone's questions. Okay, doesn't, oh. Thank you. So with that, I think we're at time. Once again, just wanted to thank you all for attending, engaging, and certainly supporting the co-op. We hope the information has been helpful. Certainly we're going to be providing this as a link so that if all of you want to look at it again or share it with others, you'll be able to do so as well. And in the meantime, we look forward to seeing you at the co-op. Have a great evening, and thanks so much.